Hey, and welcome to another episode of Encyclopedia, the series where we discuss and analyze the various creatures across the two zombie storylines. In this episode, we'll be compiling the threats you can face in Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. Though chronologically this isn't the first time entities and species crossed over from the Dark Aether, this would be our first exposure to it in release order, all thanks to Project Endstation's accidental tear through reality in 1944 and then Omega Group's reactivation of the particle accelerator in 1983. But what exactly did cross over into our reality? Well, we've already discussed some of them on the channel, and if you wish to hear them in more detail, then you can find those video links in the description, or in a little title card when we get to them. Anyways, let's finally begin with the first enemy. The Plague Hound. A canine covered in disgusting cysts, warts, and bubbles. Excreting a toxic gas as it moves, the Plague Hound has the same attack pattern as the Tigers from 9, where they pounce onto their targets repeatedly. When killed, the Plague Hound leaves behind a cloud of gas that is capable of melting your skin and boiling your blood. As mentioned in the Keepers and Apothecons episode, the tongue of the Plague Hound is similar to that of the Keepers. Whether this means they're related or not isn't clear. Megaton. Megaton seem to be Omega Group soldiers who got dragged into the Dark Aether at the Marasco Project Endstation facility. The result is an overly muscular, heavily irradiated beast that shoots balls of radiation which can deal continuous damage. When defeated, the Megaton splits in two, working as a defense mechanism. In its split forms, named the Blaster and Bomber, they simply are more mobile versions of the Megaton, but weaker in health. During Requiem's time at Project Endstation's facility in Poland, they used their Weschler on a Megaton. This Megaton remembered his true name, being Orlov, and assisted Requiem in destroying the Cyclotron. A unique variant of the Megaton, named Mayak, can be seen when inside of the Dark Aether in D Machina. It behaves no differently, only having more health. It also doesn't split in two when defeated, but the HVT variant of the Megaton featured in Outbreak maps does split in two. Hellhound. We've discussed the Hellhounds extensively in their own episode, so I will keep this brief. Hellhounds make their reappearance in Firebase Z, behaving as suicide chargers. They run into players bursting into a pile of flames, which will happen regardless of how they die. Zykov, when inside of the Dark Aether, had a Hellhound as a pet, which he named Cinder. Russian Mangler. Another enemy we've discussed in the past, the Russian Mangler was designed to be a counter against the German Panzer Soldat in the Aether storyline. In the new storyline, the Russian Mangler seemingly appears from within the Dark Aether, still sporting an arm cannon that releases concussive blasts that can deal high damage. When its target is too close, or if their arm cannon is destroyed, then the Mangler will resort to the sickles attached to its other arm. Like the Megaton, the Russian Mangler has an HVT variant that can be fought in Onslaught and Outbreak respectively. In its HVT form, it gains red armor with a white painted skull on its chest plate. Its skin becomes a sickly blue. As with all HVTs, however, it simply just has more health and no unique abilities. During Omega Group's Ethereum mining operations at Outpost 25, not all Aethernauts would return. Those left behind all faced different fates, some of which transformed into the creature known as the Mimic. When observed carefully, you can see facial features of the human the Mimic used to be, which is rather haunting. The abilities of the Mimic feature disguising itself as various objects, whether it's loot, chests, or random items, to lure in its prey. When it gets the jump, or if their prey is attempting to flee, it'll use its tentacles on its back to grab the prey and reel them in to deal massive damage before tossing their food. Another attack is a blast of energy that comes from their mouth for when their prey is too far. This creature's abilities and attributes were first discovered by Dr. William Peck and Dr. Dmitry Kukle at their Outpost 25 facility when a Mimic came through the Omega Portal Chamber. In the Outbreak Easter egg, a red Mimic can be fought against, which would reappear as an HVT in Outbreak. Orda. The Orda, Russian for Horde, is a gigantic creature that is made up of dozens of rotten corpses, some who still have sentience. The Orda is considered an elder god, and it stomps around confidently. When it spots its target, it will pick up in speed before slamming its trunk-sized arm or foot on the ground. But it does have ranged options as well, such as launching hellhounds as though they were missiles, and sending out locusts that pick away at your health. In Firebase Z, the Orda could also siphon Dark Aether energy from Peck's Ethereum reactors. When it finishes draining the devices of their energy, a rift opens in the sky and the Orda returns to the Dark Aether. It was also the main boss fight in Firebase Z's Easter egg. In Outbreak, the Orda also has an ability where it places these Dark Aether circles that cause damage, and if the player gets too far away, ultimately losing the Orda's attention, then the Orda will wander off and place its trunk arm into the ground and restore its health. So give it your all, the rewards are usually worth it. Krasny Soldat. Mechanically, they behave almost no differently to the Panzer Soldat in Call of Duty Black Ops 3. Anyway, the Krasny Soldat was an invention of Dr. Kukle's to further protect and assist Aethernaut miners when inside of the Dark Aether. However, Dr. Peck took credit for the invention. As with anything that crosses over into the Dark Aether, not all of them make it back, and those who didn't became enlisted in the Forsaken's army, gaining new upgrades to their armor sets. Equipped with a flamethrower that deals intense damage and an incendiary grenade launcher, the Krasny Soldat is well versed in close and long distance combat, and should it find it necessary, it will use a jetpack on its back to leap toward its enemy. This jetpack, however, can be destroyed, giving you a nice advantage. Tempest. At first thought to be a reskin of the Avogadro, turns out to be nothing like it at all. Tempests are similar to mimics when it comes to their origins. They were once people, their bodies are now made up entirely of Aetherium crystals, and when they cross over into the other side, will plant a piece of themselves into the ground. This implanted crystal will blossom into an Aetherium processor, which produces dark ether particles into the air, replacing the oxygen. This allows for the undead to cross over and exist in our reality, and it expands the phase's reach. Tempest's abilities are teleportation and shooting bolts of electricity. They are fairly easy to kill, but if left forgotten can become a problem. Dr. Peck would use the Tempests for his inversion warheads, along with our next enemy, Legion. Legions are a combined mass of Tempests, extremely powerful entities that are impervious to damage. The only way to actually harm the creature is to shoot its chest enough times, which will cause orbs of electricity to appear around it. Shooting them enough will cause the orbs to close in onto the Legion and dealing massive damage. If you're too slow, however, then you must try again. And do keep in mind that you're under a time limit. Demented Echo, a fiery ghost that looms in random places around the Ural Mountain outbreak zones. When they find you, they will charge after you and explode. Upon exploding, it will alert zombies to your area, acting as a call to war for them. According to intel in Cold War, Demented Echoes are lost souls who manage to escape the Dark Aether, but freedom comes at a cost. They lose all humanity within themselves and become, well, a Demented Echo of their former self. They can also be seen occasionally when the player obtains the ray gun out of the box in Die Machina. In both Die Machina and Outbreak, they are pretty rare to find, so forgive me for not actually having footage of them. Piotr. Piotr was an Omega Group soldier who became a lost soul during a quick mission into the Dark Aether. Over time, his form would alter, becoming the ghostly figure you can find in Outbreak. He was aware what happens to those who escape the Dark Aether, but still he wished to leave and assist those who were fighting against the Forsaken. Placing himself within special chests that are launched into our reality, he indeed managed to escape the Dark Aether, and if freed from his chest would provide protection to his rescuers. However, once the strike team leaves the area, the Forsaken drags Piotr back into the Dark Aether. Disciple. Once loyal soldiers, the Zealots Baragmos, disciples follow a different master now, ever since the Forsaken's reign over the Dark Aether. They are dressed in a military-esque clothing and float around the battlefield, strengthening zombies and increasing their speed. Should the disciple fall, then their boosts on the dead will disappear. Disciples are fairly easy to kill, not sporting much health, but like the Tempests, will become a problem if ignored. Perhaps more of a problem. An ability disciples have is a leeching ability. A stream of blood, your blood, will be leached out from your character, restoring the disciple's health. Thankfully, it's easy to break their stance, thus freeing you from their clutches. When their armor is broken, you should try and get a good look at their chest and stomach. I assure you it's pleasant. Unlike many other special enemies in Cold War, Disciples do not have an HVT variant. Tormentor. Similar in appearance to Tempests, in that they are made up of crystals, but these ones are not similar in behavior to their crystalline brethren. They choose to run towards their targets and explode. They're sort of like the Hellhounds in that way, and they even have their own special round in Mauer der Toten. There really isn't much else to say about them. Angelica Vogel. When Alexandra Valentina, who revealed herself as Angelica Vogel, entered the Dark Aether to reunite with the person she believed to be her father, she was given divine power, ascending to that of a demigod. Her appearance isn't too far off from the Tormentors, and she sits upon a crystalline throne and provides a shield for herself. When she drops her shield, she attacks. One of her attacks is an insta-kill. Should she begin to charge up, take cover immediately. Another ability is a flurry of orange crystals that she sends out rapidly. She isn't that difficult, so you've got this. Abomination. The lore currently for this creature is unknown, but based on its appearance, it seems a man and a Margwa merged together and created this abomination. Its methods of attack are charging forward, lunging at you with constant bites, or shooting beams of electricity from its 3 mouths. Like with the Margwa, shooting these mouths is essential if you want to deal massive damage, and any mouth that is destroyed cannot shoot any electricity, so why wouldn't you open fire on it? It also has an HVT variant and Outbreak. The Forsaken. And finally, the Forsaken. Once a brave Russian soldier by the name of Kazimir Zykov, now a terrifying overlord of the Dark Aether. The Forsaken, according to himself, has devoured gods, destroyed nations, and conquered planets. But with enough firepower, you can easily send him into Eddie's containment device. The Forsaken releases powerful beams of concentrated dark ether energy, summoning electric storms, icy areas, and a flurry of red energy orbs. To defeat him, simply charge up zombies within a circle beneath Samantha, and she will fuel the ether cannons. Use the cannons on the crystal structures along his body until he's defeated. I know we kinda skimmed by the Forsaken's lore, but he's got a video of his own if you wish to check it out. Anyway, that's been every creature that's crossed over from the Dark Ether in the 1980s. I shall eventually do one of Vanguard, Modern Warfare 3, and eventually Black Ops 6. Thanks for watching as always, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye!